Hello students, welcome to the surface area supernode part 2. We're going to go on to example 2 now, called the rectangle-based rectangular prism. That's quite a mouthful. You can see from the 3D diagram that it is slightly different from the first one we did, which is the square-based rectangular prism. Remember, we always want to think of this side as the shape's base. So if we look at this side, we see that it is indeed a rectangle. It has dimensions of 5 by 3. Okay, so let's leave this sheet for now, and let's go back to your SketchUp 8 sketch. Okay, so the last time we left it, we were looking at it from underneath. So let's use the orbit tool and let's orient ourselves above ground now. And let's zoom out and let's find the position of the girl. Where did the girl go? Okay, so what we want to do is we want to create the second shape here, okay, in the same sketch. All right. So let's again go to Camera, Standard Views, Front. Okay, so we want to draw it a little bit. We want to give ourselves some room to open the net. So let's move down here and let's just start from here. Okay, let's click on the rectangle tool. Let's start on the horizon line here. Let's click once to start the rectangle tool. Do not hold the mouse button down. I'm just going to drag my mouse outwards and I'm going to type in 5 cm, comma, space, 3 cm and hit enter. Okay, so there is our base for our rectangular prism. So let's zoom in. Let's orbit slightly to an angle and let's use the push-pull tool. Okay, so the 3D diagram on your sheet shows a depth of 2 centimeters. So let's click once. Do not hold the mouse button down. Push back. And I'm going to type in 2 cm. Hit enter. So it's actually even a skinnier box than the first square-based rectangular prism that we drew. Okay, so do you remember the procedure? Let's zoom in. Let's start labeling all of our measurements on all of the sides. Oops, went too far, too fast. Let me zoom back out here. Okay, so let's begin with the label base. Let's click on the 3D text tool. Let's click on, and then let's type base. I think our height should work, 0.5 cm. Hit place, and let's place that right in the center. All right, let's orbit around to the back and do the same thing. 3D text tool, base, 0.5 cm for the height. Click place. Okay. So for this tutorial, I'm going to go a little bit faster, only because we've done it already. But again, you can hit pause if I'm going too fast. Okay. Let's type in our measurements now. Let's click on the 3D text tool. Now remember, the length of that rectangle is 5 centimeters. Height is always going to be 0.5 unless we have to change it. Let's click place and let's push that right to the bottom here. 3D text tool again. Now remember, the width of that rectangle of the base was 3 centimeters. So a height of 0.5 cm, hit place. Okay, so let's click it over here. Let's use the rotate tool. Let's click once and then draw a line across. Click a second time and then rotate around. Okay, so that's fine where it is. I'm getting a little bit better with using the rotate tool. Now let's do the same thing for the opposite base. Let's click on the 3D text tool. Now remember, the length is 5 centimeters. You always got to keep these measurements in your head because you're trying to visualize what the whole point is. We're trying to look at what the net's going to look like. The net is very important when we're calculating surface area. So let's click place. And this time maybe I'll place it near the top. And then 3D text tool. Now remember, the width of this rectangle was 3 cm, 0.5 cm, place. place it over here. Click on the rotate tool, click once, and then draw a line across. Click a second time, and rotate upwards like that. Okay, that's close enough to the edge. I don't have to adjust that. Okay, so let's go to the side now. Do you remember how far we pushed this rectangle back? In other words, the depth? Yes, you do remember. It's 2 centimeters. 0.5 centimeters as the height. I'm going to place it near the bottom here. And what is this measurement here? Well, if I just orbit around, I can see that it's 3 centimeters. So this length here is going to be 3 centimeters as well. So let's click on the 3D text tool. 3 centimeters and a height of 0.5 centimeters. Click place, and I'll place it there. Use the rotate tool, and I'll leave it right there. Okay? All right, so now remember there is an opposite and equal or congruent side on the other side. So if this were the right side, we have a 3 by 2 rectangle. I'll go around to the opposite side and do the same thing. Pretty easy to remember that this is 3 because I've got the measurement right here. So let's click on the 3D text tool. 3 centimeters, 0.5 cm. Okay, so I'm going to place it here on the side. How about I place it over on this side, and then maybe I need to orbit around a bit more, and then use the rotate tool this way. Okay, and do you remember how far we pushed this back? It was 2 centimeters, wasn't it? So let's click on the 3D text tool, 2 centimeters, 0.5 cm, and then I'll place that down here. I could place it at the top. How would I place it at the top? Okay. All right. So now we've got the front, back, left, and right sides taken care of. So let's go to the top. Well, it's easy to see that this length is going to be 2, and this length is going to be 5. So let's put those labels in. So 3D text tool, 2 cm, a height of 0.5 cm, place, and I'll place it near the bottom here. I'll click once on the rotate tool, click here, and then draw a line straight up. Click a second time and start pulling it down. Now I didn't place that very well, so let me use the move tool. Let's see if I can get it off the edge there. See, sometimes, like I said, it's going to be stubborn. It's not really. Let's see if I can move it to the opposite side. Let's see if I'll have more success doing that. There we go. Okay. Now remember what this length is going to be. If you need to peek, just have a look over the edge here. Ah, yes, it's going to be 5 centimeters. Okay, 3D text tool, 5 cm. 0.5 cm as the height. Click place, and I could put it here or here. How about I place it over here? Okay. Now remember, this side has a congruent opposite. If this is the top, then the opposite is going to be on the bottom. So let's set up those measurement labels as well. Maybe I'm too close here. All right, 3D text tool. The long side is 5 centimeters. Place, and this time I'll place it near the back. And this edge was, let's peek, 2 centimeters. So 3D text tool, 2 centimeters. 0.5 centimeters as the height, and I'll place it near here, and then I'll rotate it. And I'll move it to a better spot. Okay, so let me zoom out to make sure that I have measurements for all 6 sides. Remember, we established in video part 1 that every rectangular prism has 6 sides. Okay, so remember the next step? What we did was we used the paint tool and we used a royal blue. It doesn't really matter the color. And what we did was we painted in these labels for the base, only to make them stand out. Okay? The base I really want you to focus on because it really kind of grounds your strategy. It kind of gives you step one for a strategy. All right. Now let's use black and let's paint in all the measurements so that they're really easy to read. Really going to help us when we draw the net. Okay. Continue painting these measurements black. Make sure you get to all 6 sides. Just takes a minute or so. Okay, and the bottom. Don't forget the bottom. Okay. Think we're ready to go. All right. Do you remember the next step? You know what we haven't done in a while? We haven't saved. So let's go to File, Save. I shouldn't have to remind you that. Just keep saving. Okay. All right. So now we have to make the groups. Another repetitive step, but easy now that we've done it so many times. So let's click on the selection arrow tool and let's deselect. Click on the ground. Very important first step. Click on the front face or the base. Hold the Shift key. Click on the 4 edges that surround that face. Don't forget to click on the labels and the measurements. Then let go of the Shift key. Right click on that group and go to Make Group. Okay, let's go to the right side and do the same thing. Let's switch tools. Deselect. Always deselect before you start making a new group. Click on the side face. Hold the Shift key. Click on the 4 edges. Click on the measurements. Let go of the Shift key. Right click. Make Group. Orbit around to the back or the back base. Switch tools. Deselect. Click on the base. Hold the Shift key. Click on the 4 edges. Click on the label. Click on the measurements. Let go of the Shift key. Right click. Choose Make Group. All right, keep spinning around. Try not to lose track of which sides you've done. That's why I always kind of rotate all the way around and then hit the top. All right, deselect. Click on the side face. Hold the Shift key. Click on the 4 edges. Let go of the Shift key. Right click and choose Make Group. Deselect. Let's click on the top. Hold the Shift key. Click on the 4 edges that surround that top. Click on the measurements. Let go of the Shift key. Right click and choose Make Group. Now we got in the habit of, in the first diagram, to also create a group on the bottom. So let's just do it. So let's click on the selection arrow tool. Click on the bottom base or face. Click on the 4 edges. Click on the 2 measurements. Let go of the Shift key. Right click and choose Make Group. Okay, so we're ready to see what this net's going to look like. All right, let's zoom out a little bit. All right, click on the selection arrow tool and deselect. Make sure you deselect. Okay, we're ready to start. Click on the front group. Now when you do that, only that front group should be highlighted in blue. If it's not that way, then you've done something wrong and you need to edit and undo all your groups and create them again. All right, click on the rotate tool. Click in this corner. Click and hold the mouse, go across to the opposite corner, and then let go. Click high on the face. Click once, don't hold the mouse button down, and pull down. Excellent. All right, let's go to the next one. Deselect. Click on the next group. Then click on the rotate tool. Start in the bottom left-hand corner, click and hold the mouse, go to the opposite corner and let go. Click high on the face, click once, and then pull down. Don't hold the mouse button down. All right, let's go to the back base. Deselect. Click on that back base. Click on the rotate tool. Bottom left-hand corner, click and hold, go across to the opposite corner and let go of the mouse button. Click high on the face and then pull down. Don't hold the mouse button down. All right, remember for the last two sides, got to change your strategy a little bit. Deselect. Click on the top group, hold the shift key and click on the side group. Do not create a new group. We are only highlighting the two separate groups. Click on the rotate tool. Click on the bottom corner, go across to the opposite corner, let go. Click high on the face, pull those two groups down. Then I'm going to do the last group, deselect, click on the last group, and rotate it down. Okay. So let's zoom out and let's have a look. Now, let's look at it from below. Okay. And there is our net. So before you start drawing, I want you to have a look at which of these rectangles are congruent. This net looks completely different from the last one we drew. Okay, so let's save this. Oops. Let's go up to File, Save. All right, so now take out your worksheet, Surface Area Supernode, question 2, and I'd like you to draw a pretty neat diagram of your net. Again, don't take up all the space because we need the space for the calculations. So press pause here, and I want you to draw that net looking at your screen. Okay? So as you're looking at this sheet and you're looking at your diagram, make sure you have a nice, neat diagram here of your net. Okay? Don't continue the tutorial until you've drawn your net. Now, we have a couple clues about the first one we've done. Try to label the congruent rectangles the same letter. If there are more than one congruent rectangle, then you got to label them with a different kind of code. All right, press pause. All right, so do you have your diagram of the net? Mine looks something like this. Remember to label the base and the base. We always have two congruent bases. Then did you notice that we have two different rectangles? We have a rectangle that's 5 by 2, and then we have another type of rectangle that's 3 by 2. We have two of the same of rectangle 1, 5 by 2, and we have two of the same rectangle that's 3 by 2. That's why I've labeled this rectangle, rectangle 1, as well as this. This is rectangle 2, as well as this. So you need to be able to recognize that, or you're not going to be able to do the surface area. All right. So in the first example, we always start with the base. Think of this shape think of this side as the shape's base. So let's look at the base. So step 1 is always going to be the area of the base. So area of the base equals. Now, let's look at this shape. Is it a square? No, it's not. That's why it's in this section, rectangle-based rectangular prisms. So don't write down s squared because it's a rectangle. So we have to do length times width. All right, so what's the longer side? The longer side is 5 centimeters. The width is 3 centimeters. Now again, try to stay ahead of me here. You know the substitution line, what it's going to look like. Area equals 5 times 3. I'm just omitting the units here just to make it a little bit cleaner. Plus, I don't have a lot of space. And 5 times 3 is 15 centimeters squared. Now remember, this is area, so it's squared. How many bases do we have that are congruent? We have 2 of them. So make sure you show me that. Times 2. There are two bases. 15 times 2 is 30 centimeters squared. So we've taken care of this and this. So now let's calculate the area of rectangle 1. So let's go on to step 2. Again, make sure you show me all your steps. Make sure everything's organized and neat and easy to read and follow. All right, area of rectangle 1 equals, now it's a rectangle, so it's length times width. Length is, what's the longer side in rectangle 1? Well, it's 5 centimeters. The width, the shorter side, is 2 centimeters. Area of rectangle 1 equals 5 times 2 centimeters. Total area is 10 centimeters squared. But how many of rectangle 1s do we have? We have 2 of them. So make sure you show me that step. You got to multiply that area times 2. There are 2 rectangles that look exactly the same. 10 centimeters squared times 2 is 20 centimeters squared. Okay. All right, now we have a third shape. We have rectangle 2. So let's go on to step 3. Area of rectangle 2 equals length times width. All right, so let's have a look. What's the longer side? The longer side is 3. Let's have a look at this diagram here. 3 and 2. So the length is 3 centimeters. The width is 2 centimeters. Area equals 3 times 2 centimeters equals 3 times 2 is 6 centimeters squared. Okay. Now, how many of rectangle 2s do we have? Well, we have 2 of them. So you got to multiply that area times 2 because there are 2 of the exact same shape. And then we get 12 centimeters squared. Okay. All right, we're not done. We have a fourth step for this type of question. Total surface area equals, we take these 3 totals, 30 centimeters squared plus 20 centimeters squared plus 12 centimeters squared. So please use your calculator, add those 3 up. Hopefully you get 62 centimeters squared. Okay, so we need a conclusion for our long solution here. The surface area of this rectangular prism is 62 centimeters squared. Okay, so this concludes this part of the lesson for rectangular-based rectangular prisms. Now, we're not going to go on to video part 3 because I want you to work on some questions. So I'm going to give you some homework. I'm going to give you some worksheets so that we can practice these skills. All right, so thanks for watching. Bye.